All right, folks. I hope you're ready. I'm ready. Let's do this. Let's get into After Effects 3D environment. All right, so if you can see this wonderful, gorgeous, beautiful, spinning 3D, beautiful, wonderful spinning no, never mind. So yeah, I just whipped this up in After Effects, and this is 100% all After Effects. There's no Cinema 4D here. It's just extruded shapes and some lights and some reflections. So this is the kind of thing you can do just straight within After Effects, but we're going to modify, redesign, redo it here, and have some fun. All right, so let's take that down for sure and figure this out. But we were in our wonderful science laboratory, and we were compositing in our little hex mark logo. So just to start it off, I mentioned that I wanted to fade in from black. So layer new solid is the best way to do that. And yeah, just go straight up there and grab a black solid, put it up at the top, T for opacity, and bring that back to the beginning. So we want it to slowly come in there, something like that. And then we reveal our composited logo, and then we're going to do our transition to our 3D environment. So the thing about this is that the 3D environment requires a different renderer. All right, so if we go up to composition settings, you'll find we have a basic, and we have advanced, and we have our 3D renderer. Honestly, you'll really never need this advanced stuff. This is more for motion blur and getting a better, getting more blur or less blur. That's up to you. But the 3D renderer, this is important. So you can see right now my renderer is set for 3D just because I was in there. But look, this is classic 3D. So as a traditional After Effects renderer, layers can be positioned as planes in 3D space. Now, if you go to Cinema 4D, you get a whole big whack-load of information here. So what we get, what are enabled, are extruded and beveled text and shape layers. Really, text is the best for this stuff. It really looks great and super easy. Reflections. So you saw in that 3D spinning thing, there was some reflections in there. Curved footage layers, which could be fun. Material, environment layers, pre-comp, and so on. But what you don't get, what is disabled, are blend modes, track mats, layer styles, and masks. All kinds of information here that you don't get. You don't get motion blur. You don't get camera depth of field. So you're kind of, you're giving up a lot here. So that's why we sort of, you have to sort of cheat the system and go back and forth between these two renderers. All right. So I am going to go. What I thought then, the thing is about this, because this logo, this is the one I want to extrude and become 3D, except it has a whole bunch of effects and masks on it, so that's not going to work, right? So the best thing to do would be to duplicate the layer and take all those masks off. But since we have that original logo hexmark composition, I can just go back in there, select it, Command or Control C to copy, and then Command or Control C to paste that in there. And you can see it there. It's not really working. It's not at the right spot, but near the end, it's perfect. So I'm going to bring that down, and I'm going to put it under here because I know that this, if I hit U on the keyboard, I can just get rid of this tracker information, because this is really what I want. I want this transition here. All right, so now I know that I can maybe fade out my logo. I can fade out all of this stuff and go to this transition. Now, do I really want to have all of this stuff? Do I want to copy paste this onto all of this? Probably not. I think probably the best thing to do at this point might be to pre-compose. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select this and actually cut it out. So Command or Control X. Let's do that again. I'm going to deselect the keyframes, and I'm going to cut this off. Boom. Now it's gone. Now, yeah, it's got some errors because it had that the box blur and solid composite. Okay, so we need to cut all of those out. So I'm undoing all of those. Select all the effects. Control X off of that. So I want to do a transition here. This is really what I'm doing here. And actually, you know what? I'm going to back up. And I'm going to, instead of doing a pre-compose, what I'm going to do is take these and delete them. And basically, we're just going to do a transition from here to here. All right, so I'm going to simplify this a little bit. So I want my A1 logo reveal Neil blah 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 version 1, so that's here. And I'm just going to actually pull it right in on top of this composition. So now I know that whatever's inside there is going to come on by, and then around this point I want to transition and have it fade out. So now I can paste that effect back in there. If I hit U, yeah, we should have it back. So really, you know, you don't need to worry too terribly much about this. Really, what we're doing is transitioning from our main composition to our final comp. Okay. So I've got that, and so now I know I can just sort of trim that up. I like to keep my layers all nice and neat. Now this one, I don't want this logo here right just yet. I don't want it to be flat, and I don't want it to be there. So I feel like, well, there's a couple of ways we can do this. I definitely don't want my Hexmark Innovations text to show up. So I want this to be 3D. This is an Illustrator file, right? Just like we saw earlier. But in order to make this into 3D, first of all, we need to make it a 3D layer, right? So that's this little cube thing. So you create a 3D layer, all right? And you'll see the difference is that now we have these handles, X, Y, and Z, or Z if you're American. Now, the thing I need to do to actually get this to into a 3D layer is to convert it into shapes. And really, it's kind of a weird After Effects thing that, I mean, this is a vector file, and shapes within After Effects are vector files, but Illustrator and After Effects they're close, but they don't work totally perfectly. What you need to do with this layer is right click on it and go up to create, and then you'll see there's a bunch of options for other editable and shape and mass, but we want to create shapes from vector layer. And really all this does is sort of transition it to, like, it literally does nothing to the actual content, but make it easier for After Effects to be able to read the layer. So you click that, and what you see is that actual original logo layer is now off. The eyeball is off, and we have a shape layer, and you can see that all shape layers have this little star insignia. All right, so now what you'll see are actually material options, geometry options, the usual transform, and then contents. And it depends on how much information you have. And you can see there's tons in here. There's like literally all of these individual shapes are now individual groups that can be modified or whatever. All right, but the first thing we want is the geometry options. So I'm going to twirl those down, and you'll see that for some reason it starts with bevel style, but because there's no extrusion yet, that doesn't make any difference. So we need to decide on our extrusion depth. So I'm going to click and drag that out, and you can see, well, I'm on a third my resolution, so I'll bring that up. You can't really see anything yet, right? I mean, it kind of is there. It's kind of not. If I click on 0 and you look, okay, yeah, it's kind of coming out. It's kind of not there. It's impossible really to tell. And that's because we don't have any lights in our environment yet. There's actually also another way to do to make it look really good before we even get to lights. And it's kind of faking our lights. So I'm going to show you lights in a sec, but this is actually a pretty good go-to. And this, my friends, is your friend. It's called an animator. So you get to add animators. And so if you click on here, you'll see all kinds of options for when we get to in shapes. But what you're able to do is actually go and change each part of this shape. So we can change the front color and have it act differently each time. So what I'm going to do is go to side and go to color. All right, and it's going to apply surface to a material option to multiple shapes at once. Select group from the add. I see. Right, I forgot. Because we have so many contents here, we have 20 groups. What I need to do is actually add a group animator. So I know that doesn't make much sense, but bear with me. So I'm going to add a group, and then I'm going to shift click all of those individual bits and put them into this group. And now with this group selected, I can go and change the side, and it will do all of those all at the same time. And you see right away it defaults to that nasty Adobe red, but of course that's not going to work. So I'm going to change it back to regular, and then maybe just give it a bit of a tint, something like that. And now you can see that even without lights, we have, I mean, really, it could pass and could work completely without lights whatsoever. And we haven't even done a bevel yet, and that looks really good, especially when we get lights in there. So you can angle, make a sharp angle, concave, which is the usual one, and then convex if you want to get all fancy. So I'm going to click concave, because really nothing if I want this to feel 3D and feel real, I want it to, it needs a bevel, right? Nothing in the world is 100% sharp like that. Even if it is really sharp, it still has a bevel. So if we want to simulate the real world, we want to do that. All right, concave. All right, so, bevel depth, sure, we can round it out like crazy if you want, and make it all silly looking, but we'll just leave that there. Because what I want to do is really, I feel like this could use some kind of, really grand entrance, and then flip around, maybe do some silly, over the top animation. And then go back to its original flat shape for the last little conclusion, I guess. So I want to add lights to this scenario. So I'm going to go right up to the top and go Layer, New. And you'll see right under our solids is a light. Don't worry about cameras yet. We'll get into that in the coming days for sure. But I want to add a light. So when we get into lights, you have 4 options. So we have parallel, spot, point, and ambient. Parallel is kind of like the sky. So it doesn't have a singular point where it emits from. It has a big, blankety, massive surface. And it has a direction. You can point it wherever you like. Spotlight is basically exactly like a flashlight. So you're able to change the cone angle and point it somewhere, and so you're able to animate quite a few different aspects of it. A point light is basically a bare bulb, and then ambient light is directionless and it just exists. And so oftentimes you'll see people put this on at 30% just so it's not completely dark. But for us, let's go with a point light, just for now. Spotlight is good when you want to direct your light and not have it hit other spots. We don't care right now. We just want to create, we want to emit something. So we go to spotlight. Point light. All right, and I had it blasting up. Usually it'll default to about 100. And here's where, if you actually have created an environment and you want that to act like a real light and have fall off, this is where you would click that. So we could do that. That'd be good. Smooth. Don't worry about inverse square clamped. That's just getting all fancy. We don't need to worry about that. And then radius and fall off distance, it'll probably default to 500 each. This you'll figure out how much you need depending on the size of the shape that you've created. And this is where whether you want to cast shadows or not. So I'm going to put those on. Shadow darkness speaks for itself. Diffusion is how hard that shape is, whether it has a bit of a blur or it's a very sharp edged. So just to get it feeling more natural, we find something in there. Now the good thing about lights is that you can actually color them, right? You can make a warm light or a cool light and actually affect the entire scene. For now we'll just go with a pure white light just so we can keep our branding colors, but just know that that is there. So now I will click OK, and you'll see right away we get a really big difference in the results of our animation. And did I make this a concave? Yes, we need to make it convex. Convex. We want it to round out, not be concave. All right, that makes more sense. Okay, so you'll see now, okay, so I have this light here, but it's kind of hard to see where things are in the environment. So what I like to do is go to change my view layout. So I'm going to one view here, and I'm going to switch it over to 2 views horizontal. And depending on what you've got set up, you'll see the different view. So right now this one's at top. So you can see your light here, and you can see it there, and then my logo outlines, and you can see it's extruded, so it's sitting there. But that really doesn't help us either, because, okay, yeah, I guess I could move this closer, but I can't move it up or down or left or right. It's hard to see the 3D environment. So let's change it from top to a custom view 1. And what you'll see right away, depending on what you've got set up, is that sort of 3D, sort of bird's eye perspective. So now in order to move this around and see what we're doing, is I'm going to go up and actually select what's called the unified camera tool, or press C. And now I can flip around and see how my environment works. And I'm also going to change the resolution so I can do that a bit quicker. And you can see everything's looking pretty good. And I can go back, hit V, and maybe move this up. You know, have it behind my light kind of thing, or blasting through here. Maybe I want it to, yeah, sit behind there. And then we could add another light. So layer, new light. And for this one, let's just try. Well, I don't know. Let's do another spotlight. And this one, we will not cast shadows. You only really want it to cast shadows once, or one light to do that. And for this one, I'm going to take the fall off, because I want it to just go forever and be a beautiful, gorgeous light for everyone to see. So, and I'll hit C to go back to my camera tool, and that works. I like it. Feels good. Maybe this one. Whoa! Maybe this one can come up and go underneath there. The good thing about this is you can actually animate all of these elements, right? I could animate the lights, animate the shapes, all that good fun stuff. So I think we'll leave that there for now. Put it in the center. Because what I want to do is have this, like during this transition, I want this logo to come blasting through into my scene. So maybe I'll have it come way up on top of that scene, and I'll have it coming to rest, sort of blasting through, something like that. So whenever I'm going to do any kind of animation, I know right now that this is going to be the final shape, or the final position. So I'm going to hit position keyframe, and maybe I'll do the rest of them too. Opacity, rotation, could do scale too. The good thing about shape outlines is that you can scale them up to 1 billion and everything can be great. All right, so I know that's going to be my my resting spot, so I'll come back in time here. And this is where it's up to you. Do you want it coming, let's try having it come from sort of behind our camera type of thing. So I'll go to position and just animate the x-axis in the Z, sorry, not x-axis, the z-axis in the minus, and maybe move it down so we can see it. Keep going. There we go. We want it to go that way. There we go. So, and then the good thing there, we can play with the extrusion depth as well. We could have it, you know, zooming in like that. Kind of don't want it to be so dark at the beginning, so I'm going to move this light because I know it's, yeah, that's going to feel good. Alright, so yeah, you can see how much this is chugging. I'm going to hit B on my keyboard and N, and then see how that feels. So, you know, that feels good, but yeah, obviously too slow. Okay, so I've got my reveal, and it's coming out there, coming through, and it's revealing the text underneath. And now I have a whole bunch of time to play to get to our 10-second maximum. So we want this to be hex mark and maybe be about that much time for our users to see what's going on. And now we have maybe 1.5 seconds to play with some kind of tagline. Maybe you could add a let's see. Let's add, well, this is the kind of thing you'd get from a client, of course, but for us, for our sake, we can make it up, have some fun with it. So I'm going to get my text and just go and plunk down my cursor and say, what should we do? Leading edge technology for human-centered solutions. Is that cheesy enough? I think that's good. Sure. Leading edge technology for human-centered solutions. Yeah, that's not cheeseball whatsoever. Just sure sounds like something some kind of corporate entity would choose. All right, so there you go. So 25. So let's go something like that, so we can actually see it. And so whenever I'm doing text, I always right away I'll right-click on it and go up to transform and center anchor point in layer content. The longest menu name ever. Or you can do it the same here, animation and layer and transform and all that stuff. So so that feels good, and the reason why I wanted to center that is because I want to go up to align, where's right there, align, and I want that to be in the middle. All right, so what do we do with this text here? What should we do? We want this to come in, and maybe we want another sort of. We could do the same sort of reversal of our logo and have it shooting back out at us, and then revealing our text. That could be fun. So we'll put that somewhere where we can see it. Yeah, that feels good. Give it a bit of space. So with this one, instead of wiping it out completely, we could wipe it out completely, because we can just go Command or Control D and hit U, and then we can just grab our layer and bring it to where we want. Maybe here. I'm gonna Alt left bracket again, because I want to take this, like all these keyframes, and time reverse them basically. So just right click and time reverse, and then I'm going to bring these over sort of there. So now I know that this is going to shoot right back out at us. Yeah, and the good thing is right around here we can have it doing the reveal of our, I'm going to hit page down to go frame by frame. That feels good. And so now I want my tagline to start here. So I'll just go and grab it and move it over. So I have it coming in, and then maybe making some kind of stamp and then shooting out. Yeah. Of course, we want it to be way faster this time. And so we'll move this around there. And there we go. Yeah, that's going to work. So it's going to reveal that. Leading edge technology for human-centered solutions. Wow, that's That's some corporate speak right there. And then as a sort of, we want at least, so, okay, so they can read from here. And so you need to, whenever you're doing motion design, especially with text and being able to read it, you certainly want to have them like have enough time for people to read that, right? And it's longer than you think, because it'll be the first time that people have seen it compared to you, and you've either written it or been looking at it for hours. People need some time, so we want to maybe give it to about 9 seconds, maybe in a second and a half at least, or maybe we'll go maybe to 9.5. And then we need some way of transitioning out. We could just leave it there and fade to black, but we're going for a bit of cheese here, so let's do some cheese. So how could we do some cheese? We could again, we could have our logo shooting out. We could have our text on a path. We could have some another kind of similar transition that we had before. That might feel good. So what in order for a transition to work, we need it. If I want it to work on everything, what I need is either to pre-compose it. Yeah, I think we'll do that. So logo hex mark. So there's a few ways we could do this. We could just grab everything, all of our layers, right click and pre-compose. All right, so click that and just say A1 logo reveal and version 2. Let's try that. Or we're still on version 1, so we'll do this, and we'll go final, something like that, just so we know this will be our sort of final comp. So everything's going to be moved in there, and I'll click OK. And so now I have a single layer, basically. If you look at your in your projects file, you'll see now that we have our new comp. And this is where maybe I want to do that same transition that I did before. So let's do a dissolve and what was it, vapor maybe? Click and drag that down onto your logo, onto your layer. Hit U, and this is going off. So I know just from experience that there's one keyframe here and the other one is way off outside of our range, right? And I can also tell because there's an arrow here. So the easiest way for me to grab those both is to click the word here, and then I can click and drag that in. There you go. So you can see that there. So I know, of course, this is backwards, so I need to time reverse my keyframes. And so now we should have a transition with all of those little elements inside there. And there you go. So it should transition to black. So that's feeling good. Let's save it there and hit play and see what we've got. Yeah, a whole lot going on. Things shooting at you and splitting and firing and, whatever. It works. Yeah, I don't really like this one shooting out. I would say it'll probably do better when we go back and do some fixes. We want it to, maybe we have it doing something a little less in your face. But the good thing is we have this logo hex mark innovations, and then you do have You do have enough time to see this. Well, maybe not actually. That's pretty quick. So we can just take this, the keyframes for that, and just make them really quick. And instead of maybe having this come in, well, let's see what our timing's like. Yeah, it's feeling all right. I will probably take this this one shooting back at us and revealing this text, and instead have the text come in a different way. Maybe it comes in 3D as well, comes, you know, shooting in and then goes flat. That might work. But those kind of things are up to you. We will get into motion motion paths in the coming weeks. But for now, we'll leave it there, and we'll see you in class. All right. So that's the 3D environment. Have a look at that. Where did I put it? This one here. Have a look at the all the elements that I had going. You'll see that there I did put a camera in here. Originally, I had some kind of nasty camera move. I have an ambient, a point, a parallel, and another point. And so if I go to two views horizontal, you'll see that this custom view 1, if I hit C, it's a whole lot easier to tell where things are in your environment, because I added a camera, a light new camera. And if you just press the button for the default, it's great because you get this camera and you can see where where everything's looking, right? Where everything is, where your view part is, and all that. All right, so that's After Effects 3D and lights, and we'll do camera moves and all kinds of way more fun stuff in the coming weeks. All right, thank you very much, and we'll see you in class. Cheers.